The elevator doors slid open on the 23rd floor, and Dana Lawson nearly dropped her grocery bags when she saw him standing there, the man from 23B who always looked like he had just stepped off the cover of a magazine. Going down. His voice was warm, and he held the door with one hand while she scrambled inside, juggling two paper bags that threatened to spill their contents across the marble floor. "Thank you," Dana breathed, shifting her weight to redistribute the load. A container of cherry tomatoes chose that exact moment to tumble out, bouncing across the elevator floor in a cascade of red. "Oh, for the love of, I've got it." He was already crouching, gathering the wayward tomatoes with surprising efficiency. His hands were steady, competent, and Dana found herself staring at the way his suit jacket stretched across his shoulders. "I'm so sorry," she said, bending down to help. Their fingers brushed as they both reached for the same tomato, and Dana felt an unexpected jolt of electricity shoot up her arm. "Don't apologize. Tomatoes have a mind of their own." He looked up at her then, and Dana was struck by how blue his eyes were, like the ocean on a clear day. "I'm Trevor, by the way. Trevor Nelson, 23B, Dana, 23A. She accepted the tomatoes he'd collected, tucking them back into the bag. "I've seen you around, but we've never actually met." "I know." The elevator began its descent, and Trevor straightened, adjusting his tie. "You leave for work at 7:15 every morning. You always carry a green thermos and you hum when you lock your door." Dana's cheeks flushed. "That's either observant or slightly stalkerish." "Observant," Trevor said quickly, and for the first time he looked uncertain. "I promise I'm not a creep. I'm just up early and our doors are right across from each other." "What about you?" Dana asked, surprising herself with her boldness. "You're always in a suit, but you keep weird hours." "Sometimes you're leaving at 6 in the morning. Sometimes you're coming home at midnight." "Demanding job," Trevor said, and something flickered across his face that Dana couldn't quite read. "Restaurant management. Very unpredictable schedule." The elevator chimed as they reached the lobby, and Dana felt an odd disappointment that their conversation was ending. "Well, it was nice to finally meet you, Trevor." "You too, Dana." He held the door again as she exited, and she could feel his eyes on her back as she crossed the lobby. That night, Dana couldn't stop thinking about Trevor Nelson and his ocean blue eyes. She told herself it was ridiculous to develop a crush on a neighbor based on one elevator conversation and some spilled tomatoes, but when she climbed into bed, she found herself smiling at the ceiling. The next morning, Dana left her apartment at exactly 7:15, thermos in hand, and found Trevor locking his door at the same moment. He was dressed in another impeccable suit, this one charcoal gray with a burgundy tie. "Morning," he said, and his smile seemed genuine. "Sleep well." "Like a rock. You, not particularly." Trevor pressed the elevator call button. "Had some work issues on my mind." "Restaurant problems, you could say that." The elevator arrived and they stepped inside together. This time, Dana noticed details she'd missed before. The way Trevor's hair was slightly damp like he'd just showered. The faint scent of cedar and something else she couldn't identify, the small scar above his left eyebrow. "How long have you lived here?" Dana asked. "About 8 months. You?" 2 years. I love it, even though the rent is absolutely killing me." Dana laughed. "But the view from the 23rd floor is worth eating ramen twice a week." Trevor's expression shifted, became more serious. "What do you do? For work, I mean." "I'm a veterinary technician at a clinic in Midtown. It's not glamorous, but I love it. Animals are better than people most of the time." "Present company excluded, I hope." "The jury's still out," Dana teased, and Trevor laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. They parted ways in the lobby again, but Dana felt lighter somehow, like the morning was brighter than usual. She caught herself thinking about Trevor throughout the day, between examining a nervous tabby cat and calming a golden retriever who was terrified of the thermometer. "You're distracted," her coworker Melissa observed during lunch. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Dana said, but she could feel herself blushing. "I just met my neighbor, finally. We've been living across the hall from each other for months, and he's gorgeous, isn't he? How did you know?" Melissa grinned. "Because you have that look, the I met a cute guy look. It's nothing. We just talked in the elevator twice." "Twice is the beginning of something," Melissa said wisely. "Trust me." Dana wanted to believe her, but she'd been burned before. Her last relationship had ended 6 months ago when she discovered her boyfriend was cheating with someone from his office. Since then, she'd been cautious, guarded, unwilling to put herself out there again. But Trevor felt different somehow. There was something genuine about him, something that made her want to take a chance. Over the next 2 weeks, Dana and Trevor kept running into each other in the elevator. It became a pattern, almost predictable. Some mornings they'd ride down together, making small talk about the weather or the building's temperamental air conditioning. Other times, they'd meet in the evening, both carrying takeout bags and looking exhausted from their respective days. Chinese food again. Trevor asked one Thursday night, eyeing Dana's familiar paper bag. "Don't judge me. Their Kung Pao chicken is addictive." Dana glanced at his sleek black bag. "What about you? That looks fancy." "Italian place on Fifth Avenue. Their carbonara is life-changing. Now I'm jealous." Trevor hesitated, and Dana saw him warring with himself about something. Finally, he said, "You're welcome to share if you want. I always order too much anyway." Dana's heart skipped. "Are you sure? I don't want to impose." "You wouldn't be. I could use the company, honestly. Work has been intense lately, and I've been eating alone too much." That was how Dana found herself sitting in Trevor's living room 20 minutes later, a plate of the best carbonara she'd ever tasted balanced on her lap. His apartment was surprisingly sparse, decorated with expensive-looking furniture but lacking personal touches. No photos, no artwork, no knickknacks that spoke of a life well lived. "This is amazing," Dana said around a mouthful of pasta. "If this is what restaurant managers get to eat, I'm in the wrong profession." Trevor smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "It has its perks." "You don't sound that enthusiastic." "It's complicated." Trevor set down his fork, looking at her with an intensity that made Dana's breath catch. "The truth is, I don't just manage a restaurant. I own a company. Several companies, actually. I'm the CEO of Nelson Hospitality Group." Dana blinked, trying to process this information. "Wait, Nelson Hospitality Group? That massive chain with hotels and restaurants all over the country." "Guilty." "But you said you were in restaurant management." "I am, technically. I just left out some details." Trevor ran a hand through his hair, messing up its perfect styling. "I don't usually tell people right away because it changes things. Suddenly, I'm not just Trevor. I'm Trevor Nelson, the CEO, and people start acting differently around me." Dana sat back, studying him. She could see the vulnerability in his face, the fear that she might judge him or treat him differently now that she knew the truth. "How old are you?" 31. "I inherited the company from my father 5 years ago when he had a heart attack and decided to retire early. I've been working 80-hour weeks ever since, trying to prove I'm worthy of the position. That's a lot of pressure. It's crushing sometimes." Trevor's voice was quiet. "Everyone expects me to be this ruthless businessman, making deals and acquiring properties. But some days, I just want to be a normal person who eats Chinese takeout and watches bad television." "For what it's worth, I liked you better when I thought you were just a restaurant manager," Dana said honestly. "But I don't like you less now that I know you're a CEO. You're still the guy who helped me pick up my tomatoes." Trevor's smile was genuine this time. Thank you. That means more than you know. They talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. Trevor told her about the pressures of running a multi-million-dollar company, about board meetings and investor calls and the constant scrutiny of the business world. Dana shared stories from the veterinary clinic, about the animals she'd helped and the owners who sometimes needed more comfort than their pets. I should go, Dana said reluctantly when she noticed it was past midnight. We both have work tomorrow. This was nice, Trevor said, walking her to the door. Really nice. Can we do it again sometime? I'd like that. Dana practically floated back to her own apartment, and when she collapsed into bed, she replayed every moment of the evening in her mind. Trevor Nelson was a CEO, one of the most successful businessmen in the city, and he'd opened up to her like she was someone special. The next morning, Dana found a note slipped under her door. It was written on heavy cream paper in confident handwriting. Dinner tomorrow night. Real dinner, not takeout. I know a place. Trevor. Dana smiled and immediately texted the number he'd included. It's a date. Trevor took her to a restaurant in the West Village, a small Italian place with candlelit tables and exposed brick walls. It wasn't one of his properties, he explained, because he wanted the evening to be about them, not about business. How do you separate the two? Dana asked, twirling pasta around her fork. Your work and your personal life. I don't usually. That's the problem. Trevor leaned back in his chair, studying her in the flickering candlelight. I've been so focused on the company for the past 5 years that I haven't really had a personal life. A few dates here and there, nothing serious, nothing real. Why not? Because most women I meet either want me for the money and status, or they're intimidated by it. I can never tell who's genuine and who's playing an angle. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. But you're different. You liked me when you thought I was just a restaurant manager who kept weird hours. I did, Dana admitted. I do. What about you? Why is someone as incredible as you single? Dana laughed, but it came out bitter. My ex cheated on me. I caught him in our bed with someone from his office. It's been hard to trust people since then. I'm sorry, that's awful. It's fine, I'm over him, but it made me cautious, you know. I don't want to get hurt again. Trevor squeezed her hand gently. I won't hurt you, Dana, I promise. It was a big promise, maybe too big for a second date, but Dana found herself believing him. There was something about Trevor that felt safe despite his power and wealth. He was just a man who worked too hard and ate alone too often, who'd helped her pick up spilled tomatoes and invited her to share his dinner. They started seeing each other regularly after that. Some evenings, they'd cook together in one of their apartments. Nothing fancy, just pasta or stir-fry while they talked about their days. Other times, Trevor would take her to restaurants she'd never have been able to afford on her own, not to show off, but because he genuinely wanted to share experiences with her. This is my favorite place in the city, Trevor said one Saturday evening as they stood on the observation deck of the Empire State Building. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the city stretched out below them in all directions. It's beautiful, Dana breathed, leaning against the railing. I've lived here for 5 years and I've never come up here. I come here when I need perspective. When the board is breathing down my neck or a deal falls through, I come here and remember how small I am in the grand scheme of things. It helps. Dana turned to look at him. Do you like what you do, running the company? Trevor was quiet for a long moment. I love the creative parts, designing new hotels, developing restaurant concepts, creating experiences for people. But the corporate side, the endless meetings and politics and bottom lines, that drains me. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd chosen differently. What would you have done? Architecture, maybe, or teaching. Something that lets me create and connect with people directly. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. But then I wouldn't have been living in that penthouse, and I never would have met you. Dana's heart swelled. They'd been seeing each other for 3 weeks, and every day she fell a little harder. Trevor was thoughtful and kind, constantly surprising her with small gestures. He'd learned her coffee order and sometimes left a cup outside her door on busy mornings. He'd asked about her family and remembered the details, like how her younger sister was studying marine biology in California, and her parents ran a bed and breakfast in Vermont. "I want you to meet my brother," Trevor said as they rode the elevator back down. "He's in town next week for a business meeting. He's been dying to meet the woman who's got me so distracted." Distracted? I've been leaving work at reasonable hours. My assistant almost fainted the first time I told her I had dinner plans and couldn't stay late. "Alex thinks you're some kind of witch who's cast a spell on me." "Alex is your brother, Alexander Nelson, Chief Operating Officer of Nelson Hospitality Group and general pain in my ass." Trevor grinned. "You'll love him. Everyone does." Dana met Alex the following Tuesday at a steakhouse in Midtown. Trevor's brother was 30, just a year younger, with the same blue eyes but lighter hair and a more relaxed demeanor. He shook Dana's hand enthusiastically and immediately launched into embarrassing stories about Trevor's childhood. "He was such a serious kid," Alex said, gesturing with his whiskey glass. "Always following Dad around, learning the business, taking notes in a little leather journal. I was the screw-up who barely graduated college." "You have an MBA from Stanford," Trevor pointed out dryly. "Yeah, but I partied my way through it. You actually studied." Alex turned to Dana. "He's been married to the company for 5 years. I've watched him turn down dates, skip vacations, miss holidays, all for the sake of Nelson Hospitality Group. Then you show up and suddenly he's leaving the office at 6, smiling at random moments, checking his phone constantly. It's miraculous." "I wasn't that bad," Trevor protested, but his ears were turning red. "You were exactly that bad," Alex said. "But I'm glad you met Dana. You seem happy, man." "Really happy. I haven't seen you like this since before Dad got sick." The evening was wonderful, filled with laughter and good food and the kind of easy conversation that made Dana feel like she was already part of Trevor's family. When they said goodnight to Alex and climbed into the town car Trevor had waiting, Dana felt a warm glow that had nothing to do with the wine. "Your brother is great," she said, leaning against Trevor's shoulder. "I can see why you work together." "He keeps me sane," Trevor admitted. "When I get too intense, too focused on growth and numbers, Alex reminds me why we do this. It's about creating experiences, making people happy. Dad always said hospitality is about making strangers feel like family. That's beautiful." He was a beautiful person. Demanding as hell, but he cared deeply about everyone who worked for him. "I'm trying to lead the same way, but it's hard when you're dealing with thousands of employees and shareholders who only care about quarterly earnings." Dana kissed his cheek. "You're doing great. Anyone can see you care about more than just money." But caring wasn't always enough, as Dana learned the following week when Trevor showed up at her door at 10 on a Wednesday night looking absolutely destroyed. His tie was loosened, his hair was a mess, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "What happened?" Dana asked, pulling him inside. "We lost a major deal. A hotel acquisition we've been working on for months. The seller went with another company at the last minute and the board is furious. They're questioning my leadership, saying I'm not aggressive enough." Trevor sank onto her couch, dropping his head into his hands. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this." "Hey." Dana sat beside him, running her fingers through his hair. You're exhausted and disappointed, and you're not thinking clearly. One lost deal doesn't define your entire leadership. It's not just one deal, it's a pattern. I'm not ruthless like my competitors. I won't screw over employees or cut corners on safety to save money. That makes me soft in their eyes. That makes you human, Dana said firmly. Trevor, look at me. She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. You're a good man running a good company. Don't let a bunch of suits in a boardroom make you doubt that. Trevor kissed her then, deep and desperate, like she was an anchor in a storm. Dana kissed him back, pouring all her faith and support into the gesture. They'd been taking things slow, but that night felt different. That night, Trevor needed her in a way that went beyond words. They made love for the first time on Dana's couch, with the city lights twinkling through her windows and the faint sounds of traffic filtering up from the street below. It was tender and intense, and when Trevor whispered, "I love you," against her skin, Dana felt her heart crack open completely. "I love you too," she whispered back, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The next morning, Dana woke to find Trevor in her kitchen making coffee. He was wearing his dress pants and undershirt from the night before, and he looked more relaxed than she'd seen him in days. "Morning," he said, handing her a mug. "I have to head back to my place and change for work, but I wanted to make sure you had coffee first." "Such a gentleman," Dana teased, accepting the mug and a kiss. "Dana." Trevor set down his own coffee, suddenly serious. "Last night meant everything to me. Not just the physical part, though that was incredible, but you being there for me, believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. That's what I've been missing my whole life." "I'll always be here for you," Dana promised. "Bad deals and all." Trevor left reluctantly, and Dana got ready for work with a stupid grin on her face. She was in love. Really, truly, head over heels in love with Trevor Nelson, and he loved her back. Melissa noticed immediately when Dana arrived at the clinic. "Oh my God, you slept with him." "How can you possibly tell? Because you're glowing. Also, you're wearing your shirt inside out." Dana looked down and cursed. "It's been a morning. Tell me everything." Dana shared an edited version while they prepped for the day's appointments, leaving out the more intimate details but conveying how deeply she'd fallen for Trevor. Melissa listened with growing excitement. "He told you he loves you." "He did. And I said it back." "Dana, this is huge." "You haven't said that to anyone since Jake the cheater." "Trevor's nothing like Jake," Dana said firmly. "He's honest and kind and real. Yes, he's rich and powerful, but that's not who he is at his core. He's just a guy trying to do the right thing." "A guy who's falling hard for you," Melissa pointed out. "Hold on to this one." Dana intended to do exactly that. She and Trevor fell into a rhythm over the next few weeks, spending almost every evening together. Sometimes they'd go out, catching a Broadway show or trying a new restaurant. Other times they'd stay in, ordering takeout and watching movies on Trevor's enormous television or cooking together in Dana's smaller but cozier kitchen. "I prefer your apartment," Trevor admitted one Friday night as they made stir-fry together. "Mine feels like a hotel room. Yours feels like a home." "That's because I've actually decorated. You have 3 pieces of furniture and no personal items." "I'm never there," Trevor said defensively. "I don't see the point." "The point is to create a space that reflects who you are, that makes you happy when you walk through the door." Dana gestured with her spatula. "What if we decorated together, made your place feel more lived in?" Trevor's eyes lit up. "You'd help me with that, of course." "We can go shopping this weekend. Find some artwork and throw pillows and things that make the space feel warm." They spent Saturday afternoon wandering through furniture stores and home goods shops, debating the merits of various throw pillows and picture frames. Trevor was surprisingly opinionated about design, and Dana loved watching him get animated about color schemes and textures. "You really should have been an architect," she observed as Trevor carefully arranged the books they'd bought by color on his new bookshelf. "Maybe in another life." He stepped back, surveying his handiwork. "What do you think?" "I think it looks like someone actually lives here now." Trevor's apartment was transformed. They'd added warmth with soft throws and textured pillows, hung artwork that Trevor had chosen himself, filled the shelves with books and small sculptures. There were plants now, too, succulents that Dana promised were impossible to kill, positioned on the windowsills where they'd catch the afternoon light. "I love it," Trevor said, pulling Dana close. "Thank you for this. Thank you for letting me help." They were standing in front of his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the sun set over the city when Trevor's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "It's Alex. I should take this." Dana nodded, wandering to the kitchen to give him privacy. But she could hear Trevor's side of the conversation, could hear his voice shift from warm to professional to stressed in the span of 30 seconds. "How bad is it?" Trevor asked, and then, "No, don't do anything. I'll handle it. I'll be there in an hour." He hung up and turned to Dana with apologetic eyes. "I have to go into the office. There's a situation at one of our properties in Boston. Potential food poisoning outbreak, guests getting sick. I need to coordinate with our team and potentially fly up there tonight." "Of course. Go. Do what you need to do. I'm sorry, I know we had plans for dinner." "Trevor." Dana crossed to him, straightening his collar. "I understand. This is your job, your responsibility. Go take care of it." He kissed her hard. "I don't deserve you. You really do." Trevor left, and Dana cleaned up the remnants of their decorating project. She understood that his work was demanding, that emergencies would happen. But a small part of her wondered if this was what her life would be like with Trevor, always coming second to Nelson Hospitality Group. She pushed the thought away. Trevor had been nothing but devoted to her. One work emergency didn't change that. He called her at 11 that night from the airport. "I'm heading to Boston. The situation is worse than we thought. 12 guests in the hospital health department breathing down our necks. This could destroy our reputation if we don't handle it perfectly." "You will," Dana said confidently. "You'll figure out what went wrong and fix it. I love you. I'm sorry I had to leave. I love you too. Be safe." Trevor was gone for 4 days. He called every night, sounding progressively more exhausted. The outbreak had been traced to a contaminated batch of seafood from one of their suppliers. Trevor had fired the entire procurement team, personally visited every sick guest in the hospital, and was working with the health department to implement new safety protocols across all Nelson Hospitality properties. "I'm coming home tomorrow," he said on Thursday night. "I need to see you." "I need to see you too." When Trevor finally walked through his apartment door on Friday evening, he looked like he'd aged 5 years. Dana had let herself in with the spare key he'd given her the week before, and she'd prepared his favorite meal, the carbonara from that Italian place he loved. "You're an angel," Trevor said, dropping his briefcase and pulling her into his arms. "An absolute angel. Sit. Eat. Tell me everything." Trevor did, pouring out the stress and fear of the past few days. The outbreak had been contained, but the damage to their reputation was significant. The board was calling for heads to roll, demanding to know how such a failure in their supply chain could have happened. "I take full responsibility," Trevor said. "It happened on my watch, but I also implemented new protocols that will prevent it from ever happening again. We're now the industry leader in food safety standards. I turned a disaster into an opportunity." "That's exactly what a good CEO does," Dana said. "The board should be thanking you. Some of them are. Others think I'm weak for visiting the sick guests personally," for spending company money on flowers and compensation packages. They wanted to let the lawyers handle everything. But you didn't, because you're not that kind of person. Trevor managed a tired smile. No, I'm not. They spent the weekend recovering, barely leaving Trevor's apartment. Dana called out sick from work on Saturday, the first time she'd done that in over a year, because Trevor needed her more than the clinic did. They slept late, ordered food, watched mindless television, and slowly, Trevor came back to himself. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said on Sunday afternoon as they lay tangled together on his couch. "This week would have broken me if I didn't have you to come home to." "You're stronger than you think," Dana said, tracing patterns on his chest. "But I'm glad I can be here for you. Move in with me." Dana's hand stilled. "What? Move in with me? We're together all the time anyway, and your lease is up next month. Move in with me officially." Trevor shifted so he could look at her face. "I love you, Dana. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every night. I want this to be our space, not just mine." Dana's heart was racing. They'd only been together for 2 months. It was too fast, too soon. But when she looked at Trevor, at the hope and love in his eyes, she couldn't think of a single reason to say no. "Okay. Okay." Trevor's smile was blinding. "Really, really. Let's do it. Let's move in together." Trevor kissed her then, deep and sweet and full of promise. Dana kissed him back, thinking that maybe fast wasn't always bad. Maybe when something was right, you just knew. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of packing and moving and merging their lives together. Dana brought her furniture and books and the personal touches that made a space feel like home. Trevor cleared out closet space and bathroom drawers, making room for her things with an enthusiasm that made Dana laugh. "You're really excited about this," she observed as Trevor carefully arranged her lotions and potions on the bathroom counter. "I've never lived with anyone before," he admitted. "I mean, besides Alex when we were kids, this feels like a big step, a good step. It is a good step." They settled into domesticity with surprising ease. Dana learned that Trevor was a morning person who liked to work out before dawn, while she preferred to sleep as late as possible. Trevor discovered that Dana sang in the shower and left coffee mugs in strange places around the apartment. They learned each other's rhythms, adapted to each other's quirks, and fell more deeply in love every day. "You're different now," Alex observed one evening when he came over for dinner. "Lighter somehow." "I'm happy," Trevor said simply, his arm around Dana's waist. "For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. It shows. The boards even noticed. They think whatever's changed in your personal life is making you a better leader. That's because Dana helps me keep perspective. When I'm drowning in spreadsheets and projections, she reminds me why we do this work. It's about people, not just profits." Dana felt a rush of love for this man who'd opened his heart and his home to her. She knew there would be challenges ahead, times when his work would pull him away or stress would test them. But she also knew they could handle it together. 2 months after Dana moved in, Trevor took her to Vermont to meet her parents. Dana's mother, Eleanor, was a warm woman who immediately pulled Trevor into a hug. Her father, Robert, was more reserved, studying Trevor with the protective eye of a man who'd seen his daughter's heart broken before. "So you run a hotel company," Robert said over dinner at the bed and breakfast. "I do. Nelson Hospitality Group. We have properties across the country." "That's a lot of responsibility for a young man." "It is," Trevor agreed, "but I have good people helping me, including your daughter. She keeps me grounded." Robert's expression softened slightly. "Dana's always had a good head on her shoulders. Don't take advantage of that." "I wouldn't dream of it, sir. I love her. I can see that." Robert glanced at Dana, then back at Trevor. "Just make sure you treat her right. She deserves someone who puts her first." "I will, I promise." Dana's mother cornered her later while they were doing dishes. "He's lovely, honey, really lovely, and the way he looks at you like you're the most precious thing in the world, that's special." "I know, Mom. I really think he's the one." "Then hold on to him. Good men are rare, and ones who love you that deeply are even rarer." They drove back to the city the next morning, and Trevor was quiet for most of the journey. Finally, as they were crossing into Manhattan, he said, "Your parents are wonderful. They liked you too." "Well, Mom liked you immediately. Dad will take some time, but you won him over with that promise." "I meant it. Every word." Trevor glanced at her, then back at the road. "Dana, I know we haven't been together that long in the grand scheme of things, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're it for me." "You're it for me too," Dana said softly. Fall turned to winter, and Dana experienced her first holidays living with Trevor. They spent Thanksgiving with Alex and his girlfriend, a smart lawyer named Christine, who kept them all laughing with stories from her cases. Christmas was split between Dana's parents in Vermont and a whirlwind visit to Trevor's mother in Connecticut. Margaret Nelson was elegant and sharp, with the same blue eyes as her sons. She'd taken over managing the family's charitable foundation after her husband's heart attack, and she grilled Dana about her work with animals with genuine interest. "Trevor's been different since he met you," Margaret said during a quiet moment while Trevor and Alex were arguing about football in the other room. "Calmer, more himself. I hope that's a good thing. It's an excellent thing. For 5 years I've watched my son pour everything into that company, neglecting his own happiness and health. You've given him balance. That's a gift." Dana felt tears prick her eyes. "He's given me so much too. I didn't think I could trust someone again after my ex, but Trevor makes it easy. He's a good man. He got that from his father." Margaret squeezed Dana's hand. "Welcome to the family, dear." The words stayed with Dana as they drove back to the city. Welcome to the family. It felt real, permanent, like she and Trevor were building something that would last. But in January, that foundation was tested when Dana came home from work to find Trevor pacing their living room, his phone pressed to his ear and his expression thunderous. "That's unacceptable," he was saying. "We had a contract. You can't just back out because you got a better offer." A pause, then. "Fine. Have your lawyers call my lawyers. This isn't over." He hung up and threw his phone on the couch with more force than necessary. "What happened?" Dana asked carefully. "The same hotel group that beat us on that acquisition last year just poached 3 of our best properties. They offered the owners ridiculous amounts of money, way over market value, and convinced them to break their management contracts with us. It's a targeted attack. They're trying to destroy Nelson Hospitality." "Can they do that? Just break contracts?" "They're going to try. We'll sue, obviously, but litigation takes time and money. In the meantime, we lose 3 flagship properties and take a massive hit to our reputation." Trevor sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "The board is going to have my head for this." Dana sat beside him, rubbing his back in slow circles. "What can I do?" "Nothing. There's nothing anyone can do." Trevor looked up at her with tired eyes. "I have to go into the office. Alex and I need to strategize, figure out our legal options. At 8 at night, this can't wait." Dana wanted to argue, wanted to insist that he stay and let the crisis wait until morning. But she could see the stress in every line of his body, could understand that his entire company was under threat. "Okay, go. Do what you need to do." Trevor kissed her forehead and left. Dana tried to wait up for him, but eventually fell asleep on the couch. She woke at 3 in the morning to find the other side of the bed still empty. Trevor hadn't come home. This became the pattern for the next 2 weeks. Trevor would leave for work before Dana woke up and come home long after she'd gone to bed, if he came home at all. Sometimes he'd sleep at the office, texting her apologetic messages about conference calls with lawyers and emergency board meetings. Dana understood, or tried to, but she missed him. She missed the man who'd once left work at reasonable hours to have dinner with her, who'd made her coffee in the mornings and held her at night. "He's pulling away," Dana told Melissa during a particularly rough day at the clinic. "I can feel it." "He's dealing with a crisis at work," Melissa said reasonably. "That doesn't mean he's pulling away from you. But what if this is what life with him is always going to be like? Crisis after crisis, with me always coming second." "Have you talked to him about it?" Dana shook her head. "I don't want to add to his stress. He has enough to deal with." "Dana, relationships require communication. If you're feeling neglected, he needs to know." But Dana didn't say anything. She stayed quiet, supportive, understanding, even as the distance between them grew. Trevor was fighting for his company, for his father's legacy. How could she complain about feeling lonely when he was dealing with that? Finally, 3 weeks into the crisis, Trevor came home at a reasonable hour. He looked exhausted, older somehow, but there was relief in his eyes. "We settled," he said, dropping his briefcase by the door. "The other hotel group agreed to back off in exchange for us selling them 1 property instead of 3. We lose some money, but we keep our reputation intact and avoid a lengthy legal battle." "That's good news," Dana said, but her voice sounded flat even to her own ears. Trevor noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm glad the crisis is over." "Dana," he crossed to her, taking her hands. "Talk to me. What's going on?" "I just missed you, that's all. The past few weeks have been hard." "I know. I'm sorry. I've been a terrible partner." "You haven't been terrible. You've been dealing with a major crisis at work. I understand that. But you feel neglected." It wasn't a question. Trevor cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I've been so focused on saving the company that I've been taking you for granted. I'm sorry, Dana. That's not okay. I know your work is important. You're more important. You'll always be more important." Trevor pulled her close, and Dana felt some of the tension leave her body. "I need to do better at balancing things. The company will always have crises, always have demands, but I can't let it consume me the way it has been. I can't lose you because I'm too busy fighting business battles." "You're not going to lose me," Dana said, but even as she said it, she wondered if she was being naive. Trevor's work was demanding and intense. Could he really change? Could she really handle being with someone whose job would always pull him in 100 different directions? Trevor seemed to sense her doubt. "I mean it, Dana. Things are going to be different. I'm going to delegate more, trust my team to handle things. Alex has been telling me for years that I micromanage, that I need to let go of some control. He's right." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." He kissed her softly. "You're the best thing in my life. I'm not going to mess this up." And he kept his word. Over the next few months, Dana watched as Trevor made a conscious effort to establish better boundaries between work and home. He started leaving the office by 7 most nights, and he stopped checking his email obsessively on weekends. He delegated more responsibility to Alex and the rest of his leadership team, trusting them to handle issues that he would have once insisted on managing personally. "You seem more relaxed," Dana observed one Saturday morning as they made breakfast together. "I feel more relaxed. Turns out the company doesn't collapse if I'm not personally involved in every single decision." Trevor flipped a pancake expertly. "Who knew?" "Alex knew. I knew. Pretty much everyone except you knew." Yeah, mocked the stubborn CEO who had to learn everything the hard way. Dana laughed, stealing a piece of bacon from the plate. "I'm not mocking. I'm proud of you. I know change is hard, especially when you've been doing things a certain way for years. It helps that I have the right motivation." Trevor pulled her close, kissing her temple. "I want a life with you, Dana. A real life, not just stolen moments between work emergencies. That means making changes. Spring arrived, and with it, Dana's 27th birthday. She woke to find the bed empty, but there was a note on Trevor's pillow directing her to the kitchen. She followed the trail of rose petals through the apartment to find Trevor standing next to a table laden with her favorite breakfast foods, wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the chef," and looking absolutely ridiculous. "Happy birthday," he said, grinning. "I made French toast, your favorite. And before you ask, yes, I had to call my mother for the recipe, and yes, I burned the first 2 batches. Dana laughed, crossing to him and doing exactly what the apron instructed. "This is perfect. You're perfect. Just wait. I have a whole day planned." Trevor took her to the Bronx Zoo, because Dana had mentioned loving animals more than people. They spent hours wandering from exhibit to exhibit, with Trevor listening attentively as Dana shared facts about each species. He bought her a stuffed red panda from the gift shop, remembering that she'd once said it was her favorite animal. "You're secretly a romantic," Dana teased as they rode the elevator back up to their apartment that evening. "Only for you." They were both laughing as the elevator doors opened on their floor, but Dana's laughter died when she saw what was waiting. The hallway was filled with candles, hundreds of them, creating a pathway of flickering light from the elevator to their apartment door. "Trevor, what is this?" "Keep walking." Dana followed the candle path, her heart pounding. When she reached their door, Trevor moved ahead of her, opening it to reveal more candles inside, transforming their living room into something magical. And standing in the center of it all, holding a small velvet box, was Trevor. "Dana Lawson," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. 10 months ago, you dropped tomatoes in an elevator and changed my entire life. You made me laugh, made me think, made me want to be a better man. You've stood by me through crises and challenges. You've made our apartment a home, and you've shown me what it means to truly love someone. I don't want to spend another day without knowing you'll be by my side forever." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" Dana's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." Trevor slipped the ring on her finger, and then he was kissing her, and Dana was laughing and crying at the same time. She was engaged. She was going to marry Trevor Nelson, the CEO who'd helped her pick up tomatoes and then stolen her heart. "I love you so much," she whispered against his lips. "I love you too. More than anything." They called their families that night, sharing the news with excitement and joy. Dana's mother cried happy tears while her father gave his reluctant blessing, admitting that Trevor had proven himself worthy. Margaret Nelson welcomed Dana officially into the family and immediately started talking about wedding plans. "Your mother is intense," Dana said after they'd hung up with Margaret for the 3rd time that evening. "She's been waiting for me to get married since I turned 30, Trevor said. Now that it's actually happening, she's going to go into full mother of the groom mode. I apologize in advance." "I don't mind. It's sweet that she's excited." They set the wedding date for October, giving themselves 5 months to plan. Dana thought it might be rushed, but with Margaret Nelson coordinating and money being no object, everything came together with surprising ease. They found a venue, a beautiful estate in upstate New York with views of the Hudson River. They hired a florist, a photographer, a band. Dana found her dream dress on the first shopping trip with her mother and Melissa, a simple but elegant design that made her feel like a princess. "You're really doing this," Melissa said as Dana stood on the fitting platform surrounded by mirrors. "You're really marrying the CEO." "I'm marrying Trevor," Dana corrected. "The man who leaves me coffee outside my door and helps me pick up tomatoes. The fact that he's a CEO is just a detail." a detail that comes with a massive bank account and hotels across the country. "I'd marry him if he was still just a restaurant manager," Dana said firmly. "The money doesn't matter." But the money did make things easier, Dana had to admit. They didn't have to worry about wedding budgets or cutting corners. When Dana fell in love with a band that was booked for their wedding date, Trevor simply paid them double to cancel their other commitment. When Dana wanted to fly her grandmother in from Arizona, Trevor arranged for a private plane to ensure she'd be comfortable. "You don't have to do all this," Dana said as they reviewed wedding details one evening. "I want to. This is our wedding and I want it to be perfect. You deserve perfect." The months flew by in a blur of cake tastings and seating charts and dance lessons. Trevor insisted they learn to waltz properly for their first dance, so they spent Wednesday evenings at a dance studio in Chelsea, stumbling over each other's feet and laughing at their own incompetence. "We're terrible at this," Dana said after Trevor stepped on her toes for the 5th time. "Speak for yourself. I'm improving." Their instructor, a severe Russian woman named Natasha, looked pained. "You are both terrible, but you are in love, so people will forgive." Somehow, by the time October arrived, they'd learned enough to not embarrass themselves. The wedding was scheduled for the first Saturday of the month, when the leaves would be changing, and the weather would be cool but not cold. The night before the wedding, Dana and Trevor stayed in separate rooms at the estate, honoring the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. Dana had a hard time sleeping, her mind racing with excitement and nerves. She was getting married. Tomorrow she would become Dana Nelson, wife of Trevor Nelson, partner for life. Her mother came to help her get ready in the morning, along with Melissa and Trevor's sister-in-law Christine. They did her hair and makeup, helped her into her dress, and assured her that everything was perfect. "You look beautiful," Eleanor said, tears in her eyes. "Your father is going to cry when he sees you." "I'm already crying," Dana admitted, carefully dabbing at her eyes so she wouldn't ruin her makeup. The ceremony was held in the estate's garden, under an arch covered in white roses. Dana walked down the aisle on her father's arm, and true to prediction, Robert's eyes were wet. But Dana only had eyes for Trevor, who stood at the end of the aisle looking devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo and absolutely wrecked with emotion. "You're gorgeous," he whispered when she reached him. "You're not so bad yourself." They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Trevor promised to always pick up her tomatoes and make her coffee and remember that people mattered more than profits. Dana promised to keep him grounded and support his dreams and love him through every crisis and triumph. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, Trevor kissed her like his life depended on it, and the crowd erupted in cheers. The reception was magical. They had their first dance as husband and wife, managing not to step on each other's toes despite their mediocre waltz skills. Dana's father gave a speech about how skeptical he'd been of Trevor at first, but how the young man had proven himself through his devotion to Dana. Alex's speech was funnier, filled with embarrassing stories about Trevor's childhood and jokes about how Dana had domesticated the most stubborn CEO in New York. "To Trevor and Dana," Alex said, raising his glass. "May your love story continue to be as unexpected and beautiful as it started." Everyone drank to that, and Dana felt like her heart might burst from happiness. This was her wedding day, surrounded by everyone she loved, married to the man of her dreams. It was perfect. They honeymooned in Italy, spending 2 weeks exploring Rome and Florence and the Amalfi Coast. Trevor had cleared his entire schedule, leaving Alex in charge of the company with strict instructions not to call unless something was literally on fire. "This is nice," Dana said one evening as they sat on their hotel balcony overlooking the Mediterranean. "Having you all to myself for 2 whole weeks. It's nice being completely disconnected from work, Trevor admitted. I haven't checked my email in 4 days. Pretty sure that's a record. You're not worried? Surprisingly, no. Alex has things under control and I trust him. I'm learning that the company can survive without me hovering over every decision. Trevor pulled Dana onto his lap, nuzzling her neck. Besides, I have much better things to occupy my attention. They made love on the balcony as the sun set over the sea, and Dana thought that life couldn't possibly get any better than this moment. But life had more surprises in store. 3 months after the wedding, Dana started feeling unusually tired. At first, she attributed it to the long hours at the clinic, but when the fatigue was accompanied by nausea and dizziness, Melissa suggested she take a pregnancy test. I'm on birth control, Dana protested. There's no way. Birth control isn't 100% effective. Just take the test. Dana took 3 tests and all 3 came back positive. She was pregnant. She and Trevor were going to have a baby. Dana stared at the little pink lines trying to process this information. They hadn't talked about kids yet, hadn't planned for this. They'd been married for 3 months, together for less than a year and a half. Was it too soon? Would Trevor be upset? But when she told him that evening, Trevor's face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Dana confirmed, and then she was crying happy tears as Trevor spun her around the living room. We're having a baby, he kept repeating like he couldn't quite believe it. Dana, we're going to be parents. Are you happy? I know we didn't plan this. I'm thrilled. Ecstatic. This is the best news I've ever gotten. Trevor knelt down, pressing his ear to her still flat stomach. Hi, baby, I'm your dad. I can't wait to meet you. Dana ran her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed with love for this man who'd once been just her neighbor, who'd helped her pick up tomatoes and changed her entire world. The pregnancy was announced to their families over dinner the following weekend. Alina cried again. Robert looked pleased, and Margaret immediately started planning to convert one of the spare rooms at her Connecticut house into a nursery for when they visited. It's going to be chaos, Alex predicted. Trevor's already intense about everything. A baby is going to send him into overdrive. Alex wasn't wrong. Trevor threw himself into pregnancy preparation with the same intensity he brought to business deals. He read every book on pregnancy and childbirth, interviewed a dozen obstetricians before selecting one, and transformed their second bedroom into a nursery with furniture that probably cost more than Dana's car. This crib is ridiculous, Dana said, running her hand over the smooth wood. It's nicer than our bed. Only the best for our baby, Trevor said seriously. I want everything to be perfect. Trevor, the baby won't care if the crib cost $100 or $1,000. But I care. I want our child to have everything. Dana recognized the look on his face, the same determination that had built Nelson Hospitality Group into an empire. You're going to be an amazing father, she said softly. But you know what babies need most isn't expensive furniture. It's love and attention and presence. Promise me you won't let work take you away from this. I promise, Trevor said immediately. I've already talked to Alex about reducing my hours after the baby is born. I want to be there for every moment, every milestone. I won't be like my father, who missed so much of my childhood because he was always at the office. Your father built a successful company and raised 2 good sons. You could do worse than following in his footsteps. But I can do better. I can be present in a way he wasn't. That's what you've taught me, Dana. That success isn't just about business achievements. It's about relationships, about being there for the people you love. Dana's pregnancy progressed smoothly. She continued working at the clinic until her 7th month, when bending over to examine animals became too uncomfortable. Trevor was attentive to the point of being overbearing, constantly asking if she needed anything, if she was comfortable, if the baby was moving enough. "You need to relax," Dana said one evening when Trevor was fussing over her for the 10th time. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. The baby's fine. Everything is fine." Dana took his hand and placed it on her swollen belly. "Feel that? That's your daughter doing gymnastics in there. She's strong and healthy." They'd learned they were having a girl at the 20-week ultrasound. Trevor had cried when the technician pointed out the baby's features on the screen, and he'd been referring to their daughter as the princess ever since. "Have you thought any more about names?" Trevor asked. "I like Charlotte. Or Emma, something classic." "What about Delilah, after your grandmother?" Dana's eyes filled with tears. Pregnancy hormones made her cry at everything, but this was different. Her grandmother had passed away 2 months ago, and Dana had been heartbroken to lose the woman who taught her to bake and told her stories about the old days. "Delilah Nelson," Dana said, testing the name. "I love it. Delilah it is." Their daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in May, 3 days before her due date. Dana's water broke while she was cooking dinner, and Trevor went into controlled panic mode, grabbing the hospital bag they'd had packed for weeks and helping Dana to the car. "Remember to breathe," he kept saying during the drive. "I am breathing. You're the one who's hyperventilating." Labor was long and difficult, lasting 14 hours. Trevor stayed by Dana's side the entire time, letting her squeeze his hand until she was sure she'd broken several fingers, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth, and telling her how strong and amazing she was. When Delilah finally arrived, tiny and pink and perfect, Dana felt like her heart had expanded to twice its normal size. Trevor was openly weeping as he cut the umbilical cord, and when the nurse placed their daughter in his arms for the first time, Dana fell in love with him all over again. "She's perfect," Trevor whispered, gazing down at Delilah with wonder. "She's absolutely perfect. She has your eyes," Dana observed. "Even as a newborn, Delilah's eyes were a striking blue, and your nose and your chin." Trevor carefully passed the baby to Dana. "You did amazing. I'm so proud of you." They spent 3 days in the hospital, learning how to care for their daughter. Trevor was surprisingly competent with diaper changes and swaddling, his natural confidence translating well to fatherhood. When they finally brought Delilah home, Dana felt a mix of excitement and terror. They were parents now, responsible for this tiny human life. "We can do this," Trevor said, as if reading her thoughts. "Together." And they did. Those first few months were exhausting, filled with sleepless nights and endless feedings and more laundry than Dana thought possible. But they were also magical. Watching Trevor cradle Delilah while singing off-key lullabies, seeing her daughter's first smile, experiencing the profound love that came with parenthood. These were moments Dana wouldn't trade for anything. True to his word, Trevor cut back his hours at work. He started working from home 3 days a week so he could be present for Delilah. He never missed a pediatrician appointment or a milestone. When Delilah rolled over for the first time, both parents were there to witness it. When she said her first word at 9 months, "Dada," Trevor recorded it on his phone and probably showed it to everyone in his office. "You're completely smitten," Alex observed during a family dinner when Delilah was 6 months old. "It's actually disgusting how much you love that baby." "She's amazing," Trevor said, bouncing Delilah on his knee. "Look at her. She's the smartest, most beautiful baby in the world." "All parents think that about their kids," Christine pointed out. "But in our case, it happens to be true," Dana said with a grin. Life settled into a new normal. Dana returned to work part-time when Delilah was 8 months old, and they hired a wonderful nanny named Rosa to help during the day. Trevor continued to balance work and family, and while there were still stressful periods and late nights, he never let the company consume him the way it had before Dana entered his life. On their second wedding anniversary, Trevor took Dana back to the Empire State Building, the place where he'd once told her about his dreams and fears. They left Delilah with Rosa and had a rare evening alone. "Remember when we came here for the first time?" Trevor asked as they stood at the railing, looking out over the city. "You asked me if I liked running the company. I remember. You said you loved the creative parts, but the corporate side drained you. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about what I want my legacy to be." Trevor turned to face her. "I've been working with Alex on a succession plan. 5 years from now, I want to step back from the CEO role and let him take over." Dana's eyes widened. "Really? Really? I'll stay involved, obviously. I'll keep the chairman title and focus on the creative side, developing new properties and concepts. But the day-to-day operations, the board meetings and investor calls, Alex can handle that. He's always been better at the corporate politics anyway. What will you do with all that free time?" "Spend it with you and Delilah. Maybe we'll have another baby. Maybe I'll finally take up architecture like I always wanted. Maybe we'll travel the world and show our daughter all the beautiful places that exist beyond New York." Trevor cupped her face in his hands. "The point is, I'll have choices. I won't be chained to a desk, missing my life because I'm too busy building an empire." "I'm so proud of you," Dana said, tears in her eyes. "Not because you're stepping back, but because you're choosing what matters. That takes courage. You gave me that courage. You showed me there's more to life than work and success and proving myself. You showed me what real happiness looks like." They kissed as the city lights twinkled below them, and Dana thought about how far they'd come. From neighbors who kept running into each other in the elevator to husband and wife, partners and parents, building a life together that was richer than any business deal or hotel property. 2 years later, they welcomed their second daughter, Sophia. 2 years after that, they bought a house in Connecticut with a big backyard where Delilah and Sophia could play. Trevor stepped down as CEO of Nelson Hospitality Group, passing the torch to Alex and shifting his focus to creative development, and more importantly, to his family. Dana continued working part-time at the veterinary clinic, finding fulfillment in healing animals and teaching her daughters to be kind to all living creatures. They took family vacations to Italy and Greece and Thailand, showing their girls the world beyond their comfortable life in New York. They hosted big family dinners where Alina and Robert would drive down from Vermont and Margaret would come from Connecticut, and the house would be full of laughter and love and the chaos of children. On the 10-year anniversary of the day they met, Trevor surprised Dana by arranging for the building maintenance to hold the elevator between floors for a few minutes. When Dana stepped inside and the doors closed behind her, she found Trevor standing there with a bag of cherry tomatoes. "What is this?" she asked, laughing. "A reenactment," Trevor said, dropping several tomatoes on the floor. "Go on, act surprised. You're ridiculous. I'm romantic. There's a difference." Trevor gathered up the tomatoes just like he had all those years ago. 10 years ago, you dropped these and I helped you pick them up. Best decision I ever made. Helping me pick up tomatoes, starting a conversation, taking a chance, falling in love with you." Trevor stood, pulling her close. "You changed my life, Dana Nelson. You taught me what matters, helped me find balance, gave me a family I never dreamed I'd have. I wake up every morning grateful that we kept running into each other in that elevator." "I'm grateful too," Dana said, kissing him softly. "For the tomatoes, for the elevator, for every moment since." "I love you, Trevor. I love you too. Always. The elevator started moving again, carrying them down to the lobby where their daughters waited with Margaret, probably impatient for the promised ice cream outing. But for that brief moment, it was just Dana and Trevor, the same two people who'd met over spilled groceries and improbable timing, who'd built a love story that proved sometimes the best things in life happen when you least expect them. Dana had no idea when she first saw the handsome man in the elevator that he was a CEO falling for her. But she was grateful every day that he had fallen, that they'd both taken the risk of opening their hearts, that a simple act of kindness had blossomed into a lifetime of love. Their story had started with tomatoes in an elevator, but it had become so much more. A marriage, a family, a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine affection. As they stepped out into the autumn sunshine, their daughters running ahead to greet them, Dana squeezed Trevor's hand and smiled. This was happiness. This was what mattered. Not penthouses or companies or titles, but love and laughter and the simple joy of coming home to people who saw you, really saw you, and loved you anyway. And it had all started because two neighbors kept running into each other in an elevator, and one of them was brave enough to pick up some tomatoes.